15 seconds on late-night TV. That was all it took. On Monday night, June 2nd, 2025, Jon Stewart leaned into the camera on The Daily Show, lips curled in that familiar half grin, and lobbed a single line that detonated across timelines.
Hey, girl. Down on your luck? Now you've got some ideas. You got a podcast. Get a podcast. Nobody dies. You can still terrorize people. And no, I do not want to be on it.
Meghan Markle, he deadpanned, is basically a mini Brigitte Macron, great at slapping her man into place. The studio erupted. Twitter, or whatever we're calling it now, followed suit within minutes. Screens filled with split-screen memes.
Katie Couric asked Meghan something, and Meghan went into the story for the 560,000th time about the...
Meghan, beside France's famously assertive First Lady, Prince Harry photoshopped into that viral G20 hand swat clip, while the hashtag Mini Macron climbed the charts like it had a jetpack strapped on. For years, Meghan's team had balanced her image on a razor-thin tightrope, equal parts victimhood and empowerment, outsider rebel and glossy royal. But Stewart isn't a tabloid shock-jock. He's the left-leaning cultural referee whose jokes feel less like punchlines and more like verdicts. By the time the laugh track faded, the verdict landed.
Here is Meghan showing you how to eat pineapples.
Nature has given you all the cues on how to have a perfect taste of something.
Oh, how fun is that? I love it.
The Duchess's meticulously curated narrative was wobbling, and even her own demographic, progressives who once championed her, were chuckling at the disconnect. Inside Montecito, reports say Meghan was seething, calling the gag sexist, outdated, unfair, yet the louder the private fury, the louder the public giggles grew. Because a Stewart roast isn't just a joke, it's cultural shorthand for everyone was thinking it. He just said it first. And when satire speaks that truth out loud, the internet doesn't debate. It reenacts, retweets, remixes. What began as a smirk in a Manhattan studio was suddenly a full-scale meme quake, threatening to collapse every carefully polished pillar of the Sussex brand. But how did one stray quip become the crack that split a global image?
Turns out that with Love Meghan, that toweringly tedious, useless TV series.
To understand that, we have to rewind through the slow burn missteps, broken deals, and authenticity fatigue that primed the world for this moment. Because Stewart didn't start the fire, he just struck the match. Before Jon Stewart ever cracked a grin, Meghan's brand was already smoldering. In June 2023, Spotify tore up its reported $20 million deal after just one season of Archetypes, issuing a politely icy, mutual goodbye that read like a corporate shrug. Netflix had fired an earlier warning shot the year before, quietly axing her animated series Pearl amid budget cuts, and later, plagiarism chatter that wouldn't die. Each retreat chipped away at the narrative of unstoppable Sussex success, but the real alarm bell rang in polling booths, not boardrooms. A fresh YouGov tracker in May 2025 clocked Meghan's UK favorability at a bruising 20%, her lowest score on record, with nearly two-thirds actively negative. That's not a dip, that's brand freefall. Hollywood felt the tremor. Even after signing with powerhouse agency WME in April 2023, the promised flood of prestige projects never materialized. Insiders now whisper that studios see the Duchess as high-maintenance PR for middling returns. Meanwhile, her lifestyle venture keeps relaunching. From American Riviera orchard jam jars to the newly rebranded As Ever, each pivot triggering eye rolls instead of excitement. Add it up and you get a volatile mix: broken deals, lukewarm audiences, and a star whose every authentic move now scans as strategy. All it needed was a spark. Enter Jon Stewart, match in hand, ready to turn a long-simmering skepticism into a cultural flashfire. Jon Stewart is no drive-by jester. He's the once-a-week Monday anchor who re-entered the late-night arena precisely to lob cultural truth bombs during an election cycle, and Comedy Central just locked him in through December 2025. So when the lights came up on Monday, June 2nd, his third show back this season, every word carried the weight of a verdict. With a sly tilt of the head, he dropped it. Meghan Markle is basically a mini Brigitte Macron, great at slapping her man into place. The studio cracked like tempered glass, roaring approval, and the clip rocketed online before the applause died. Stewart's line wasn't a cheap jab, it was precision satire. Brigitte Macron is older, hyper-scrutinized, often caricatured as the power behind France's presidential throne. By tagging Meghan with that label, Stewart condensed years of whispered "who's really steering the Sussex ship" into 8 syllables. The fallout was instant. Inside Montecito, insiders say Meghan was furious and humiliated, blasting the joke as sexist and out of touch while her PR team scrambled for counter-narratives. Outside, the internet got busy. Mini Macron gift-stitched Harry into viral clips, headlines swapped concern for cackles, and progressive viewers who once defended the Duchess suddenly found themselves laughing along. Stewart didn't create the skepticism, he detonated it. And by sunrise, the question shifted from, was the joke too harsh, to why did it land so hard? A pivot that would decide whether Meghan's brand could still claim authenticity or had just become late-night punchline material. Onward to the meme quake. The clip of Stewart's mini Macron jab didn't just go viral, it went feral. Within an hour, TikTok stitched side-by-sides of Meghan waving off imaginary handshakes. Instagram Reels looped Harry photoshopped into that G20 snub, clutching a saucer-sized purse while Meghan marched ahead. Even Reddit's progressive enclaves, once her safest turf, upvoted the montage with a gleeful oof. What made the onslaught sting wasn't sheer volume, it was who was laughing. These weren't Buckingham-obsessed tabloids or royal watcher boomers. It was the very slice of the internet, feminists, creatives, liberal millennials, that had championed Meghan's every microphone drop. Suddenly, the same crowd was adding snarky captions like "boss energy" or "bossy energy" over freeze frames of her podcast thumbnails. Hashtags tell the betrayal story in real time. Had Mini Macron raced up the trending ladder, but so did sly riffs like #handbag Harry and #confessions of a non-founder, poking at her carefully branded entrepreneurship. The memes weren't mean, they were weary, satire's way of saying, we're done suspending disbelief. Once a movement's darling becomes its punchline, the approval faucet shuts off fast. Meghan's comms team tried to reframe the joke as sexist, yet each rebuttal only juiced the meme factory, feeding fresh edits of Stewart mock reading apology statements between howls of canned laughter. The harder they pushed back, the louder the remix echo grew, confirming what the internet suspected. If the Duchess can't laugh at herself, maybe the empowerment banner was always more brand than belief. And that's the nightmare scenario for any public figure in 2025. When your core base stops defending and starts dunking, algorithms read it as a green light to pile on. What began as one late-night joke had morphed into a cultural referendum, ready to pry open every seam in the Sussex story. Spotify was the first domino. In June 2003, the streamer pulled the plug on Meghan and Harry's $20 million Archetypes deal, releasing just 12 episodes before walking away. The split might have faded quietly, until Spotify executive Bill Simmons blasted the couple on air as lazy F King grifters, a stinging label that trended longer than the show ever did. Meghan's comeback play arrived 2 years later, Confessions of a Female Founder, a Lemonada-backed podcast meant to showcase hard-won entrepreneurial grit. Instead, by episode 4, critics were calling it TED Talks trapped in a Whole Foods aisle. Listeners clocked the soft-focus questions, the absence of real struggle, and guests. Tina Knowles, IT Cosmetics' Jamie Kern-Lima, who sounded more brand partner than battle-scarred. Streams flattened, YouTube pundits labeled the series another polished fail-fluencer project. While the podcast drifted, Meghan's lifestyle venture took a sharp left. The Santa Barbara-themed American Riviera Orchard, famous for $28 jars of launch day jam, quietly re-emerged on Instagram as ever, a broader TIG-style home goods label. Fans read the pivot as a rebrand born of sluggish sales. Vogue praised the new scope, but comment threads filled with eye-roll emojis and questions about the still undelivered marmalade. Then came Netflix. Animated series Pearl, once trumpeted as a feminist fairy tale, was dumped in 20 and 22 budget cuts, and resurfaced in 2025 with plagiarism allegations from British author Mel Elliott, who said the show mirrored her Pearl Power books. Netflix and Archewell offered no rebuttal, reinforcing whispers that Meghan's original ideas keep melting under scrutiny. Hollywood agencies noticed the pattern. Page Six reported in February 2025 that powerhouse WME had quietly dropped Meghan after less than 2 years, citing months of speculation and sparse project traction. For an A-list aspirant, losing a top shop like WME is career hypothermia. Stack the failures side by side and a picture forms. A public tired of sleek launches with shallow follow-through, brands tired of footing the bill, and a Duchess who keeps promising authenticity yet delivers high-gloss brochures. Each flop widens the gap between Meghan's empowerment rhetoric and her real-world resume. Fuel for every meme that paints her as more marketing plan than person. Jon Stewart's throwaway quip about Prince Harry carrying the handbag hit harder than anyone expected because, frankly, the optics were already there. British columnist Shane Watson had used the exact phrase just 2 months earlier, painting the once dashing royal as a supporting prop to Meghan's Netflix-fronted rise. Within minutes of Stewart's Daily Show segment, #HandbagHarry trended, and reaction videos slowed the tape to catch Harry dutifully retrieving clutches, coats, even water bottles at past red carpet stops. Those memes found fertile soil. A fresh YouGov tracker, May 2005, clocks Harry at just 27% positive with UK respondents, his lowest score since early 2023, and 6 points behind Meghan's own nadir. The US numbers look gentler, 6% favorable per a Times YouGov poll, but even that places him a notch below his brother William and well behind the late Princess Diana. In other words, Harry's sympathy reservoir is draining on both sides of the Atlantic. Public appearances aren't helping. At February's Upfront Summit in Los Angeles, Harry delivered an earnest pitch on impact investing, only for social media clips to showcase an awkward, applause-free exit, the kind of silence pundits loop for days. 3 weeks later, he was back in uniform at the Invictus Games closing ceremony, moved to tears by Justin Trudeau's tribute, and showered with a standing ovation. Yet coverage still framed the moment against Meghan's Instagram praise from home, reinforcing the narrative that Harry's biggest wins now arrive off camera. Meanwhile, the very project meant to reclaim his voice, Memoir Spare, is aging badly. Secondhand dealers now offer hardbacks for under $4, making it the most traded-in biography of 2024. And pundits joke the market value drops every time Harry unveils another lawsuit. Those lawsuits are piling up. An FOIA disclosure shows UK taxpayers have already spent £102,000 fighting his police security appeal, with legal costs topping $650K since 2022. All of this feeds the same memeable picture Stewart crystallized. A prince once hailed as the monarchy's rebel, now relegated to the edge of photographs. Silent at summits, litigating in courtrooms, and watching as Meghan's With Love, Meghan Lifestyle series, where he pops up mainly to pour tea, hogs Netflix's spotlight. The longer that perception sticks, the harder it becomes for Harry to step back into a lead role. Because in pop culture storytelling, once the hero looks like a sidekick, every cameo just confirms the downgrade. Satire has a track record of freezing a public figure in a single, unmistakable frame. Think Tina Fey's 2008 "You Betcha" impression, which scholars still cite as a key driver in reshaping voters' mental model of Sarah Palin. Media researchers call it the parody priming effect. Once the joke sticks, it crowds out whatever the real person tries to say next. Late-night comedy isn't just background noise. Multiple studies find viewers who routinely watch hosts like Colbert, Kimmel, or Stewart internalize those punchlines as shorthand for complex issues, nudging both attitudes and voting behavior. A 2025 latent profile analysis even shows heavy satire consumers are measurably more engaged in civic action than non-watchers, proof that a joke delivered at 11 p.m. can ripple into daylight conversation. That's why Stewart's mini Macron barb mattered. Commentators quickly framed it as a cultural shift moment, the line that crystallized years of simmering doubt about Meghan's brand and gave mainstream audiences permission to laugh instead of defend. Overnight, the Duchess was no longer an embattled changemaker, but late-night shorthand for over-curated empowerment. The betrayal cut deep because Stewart's fanbase overlaps almost perfectly with Meghan's target demo: progressive, media-savvy millennials. When those viewers start sharing handbag memes instead of inspirational quotes, it signals a narrative turning inside out. In branding terms, satire just flipped Meghan from iconic to ironic. And once satire claims that real estate PR statements sound like punchlines in waiting. The next section explores what options, if any, remain when a royal narrative loses the room. Meghan's next move is already on the drafting table. Several, in fact, each testing whether the Duchess can shake the mini Macron label before it calcifies. 1. Quiet power philanthropy. Insiders whisper that Archewell is mapping a string of fund but don't front grants. Think scholarships and women-led startups where Meghan's name sits in the footer, not the masthead. The goal? Prove impact without spotlight chasing, a tactic PR veterans call the silent donor reset. 2. The lifestyle rebrand. Her jam jar venture, launched as American Riviera Orchard, then rebadged as ever, is paused while she stabilizes production, according to a June 3rd Instagram voice note. She vows the line will relaunch this month with new seasonal home offerings. Skeptics see another pivot. Loyalists see a second chance to land a Goop-style empire. 3. Netflix's last bet. The streamer still lists With Love, Meghan, a breezy cooking and hospitality series, as a 2025 holiday release. But after Netflix scrapped her Pearl cartoon, now dogged by plagiarism claims, and execs watched Spotify walk, the margin for error is razor thin. 4. Agency shuffle. Hollywood is watching to see whether talent giant WME truly dropped her. Page 6 says yes, WME says no. If the agency quietly steps back, booking the next big project becomes exponentially harder. 5. Legal and liability headwinds. Harry's latest courtroom defeat over UK police security leaves the couple staring at a potential £650,000 combined bill, including £102,000 in taxpayer costs alone, money that might otherwise bankroll fresh ventures. The stakes late-night satire just flipped Meghan from iconic to ironic. In that terrain, every glossy rollout risks reading like damage control, and every silence fuels the meme factory. Reclaiming credibility now hinges on showing something raw and unfiltered struggle, a genuine win, before the punchlines outrun the pitches. Bottom line beat, when the punchline lands louder than the pitch, even royalty can't buy back the room. So viewers, is this Meghan's wake-up call or comedy's final roast before a reinvention? Drop your verdict below, and don't forget to hit subscribe, because the next twist in the Sussex saga may be the most revealing yet.